Hello, Sarah of SEK Handmade here, and today I want to show you how to make a center pole ball of yarn using just your hands and some leftover yarn from a project. I don't know about you, but I cannot, I just can't. I can't throw away the little bits of yarn left over from a project when I'm done. And so for years, I have been obsessively winding them into these little center pole balls of yarn. And, well, some might call it hoarding. I just say it's being thrifty and saving them. It's a wonderful skill to have, and I hope you find it super useful. So, super simple. All you need is some leftover yarn from a project to start and your hands. It's that easy. So, to get started, you're going to take the tail of the yarn and you're going to trap it between 3 fingers of your hand. Then you're going to use your pointer finger and your thumb, and you're going to wrap the yarn in a figure 8, just like that. So you're going to go around, between, around, between. And you're just going to do that over and over again until you've got what you feel like is a good amount of yarn wrapped around your fingers. Now, you can do a lot, you can do a little, but like most things, moderation is probably the best way to go. So you can see I've wrapped a few, not a ton, of times around in a figure 8, and I still have my tail trapped between my 3 fingers here. I'm going to grab the figure 8s off of my thumb and my pointer finger, and I'm going to go ahead and drop my tail here just for a second. Don't let that get away from you because that's an important part. And then I'm going to take all these figure 8s and I'm just going to fold them in half. Then I'm going to take my working yarn, the long length of yarn, and I'm just going to wrap it around those figure 8s a few times. Now I'm going to find my tail end again and wrap my 3 fingers around it. And then I'm going to find where that tail goes into my ball of yarn here. I'm just going to stick my thumb in there, and then I'm going to trap the bottom of the ball with my pointer finger. That just holds it all steady. And then I'm just going to start wrapping the yarn around the ball, and then I'm going to turn. And then I'm going to wrap some more. Pardon me while I untrap my yarn here. And I'm going to wrap, and I'm going to turn. All the while, I'm keeping a hold of the tail end. That's super important. That's going to be the center pole part of your ball of yarn. So if you lose that into the ball of yarn, it is not the end of the world. Good news, you'll just have to pull your yarn from the outside of the ball. So I'm just going to keep wrapping and turning and wrapping and turning and wrapping and turning. And friends, I have been doing this for years, and I have gotten to the point where my little balls of yarn here end up looking pretty nice. Here's the thing. The point is not that it looks pretty, though I'm not going to lie, I do keep these in display areas around my craft room. But the whole point of this is to save this yarn in a convenient way for you to be able to use it later. So even if it doesn't look gorgeous, that is totally okay. Nothing to worry about. With some practice, like anything, it gets easier. So I am winding a worsted weight yarn here, but this also works with any weight yarn. You can see in my bowl here I have some bulky and some super bulky that I have wound into balls. This is a DK weight yarn. And then this itty bitty thing is a little bit of fingering weight yarn I had left over from a shawl that I made. So any weight yarn works perfectly for this. Now I do want to warn you that when you are wrapping, you want to try to keep your tension loose here. If you pull it tight, it'll stretch your yarn, and then when you go to use this yarn, it won't be the same weight as you're expecting it to be because it'll be all stretched out. So just be gentle with your yarn and take your time. This does not have to go fast. You're just going to keep wrapping and turning and wrapping and turning, all the while keeping your tail end trapped and your thumb in the middle. That keeps this from closing up on that yarn and allows the tail to pull out more easily when you're going to go use this. And then when you get to the other end of your yarn, you're just going to wrap it to the end and then tuck it underneath so it doesn't come winding out. Now, if you get to the end and you notice, oh geez, I've lost my center pull, that's okay. Just don't tuck that very end, or tuck it somewhere where you can see it a little bit, and then you just use that to pull your ball from the outside and not the center. It's totally fine. So then when you're done, this is your center pull, and you just pull, and you can easily work with that yarn again, and it stores nicely in a bowl or in a bin or in a box and is handy and ready to go the next time you need to use that yarn. Now, you might be saying, why keep this yarn, Sarah? To which I would say, I hate throwing yarn away, but also I have found it to be super handy in several ways. Some of the ways that you can use these balls of yarn is that you can use them, you know, maybe like I do, as decoration. Put them in a pretty bowl and set them somewhere around your house or around your craft room. You can also use them to make actual decorations. Small balls of leftover yarn like this are perfect for creating a garland for a specific season, or making a cute little tassel decoration for a room decoration, or to add on to a wall hanging or something like that. They're also great to use in scrappy projects. There are all sorts of projects out there that are striped or use very small amounts of yarn, and that's a perfect place to dig through your balls of yarn and use some of those up. They're also great if you're going to make ornaments around the holidays. I've also used little bits of yarn like this to embellish things. It's great to pull one of these out and work up a quick flower or some other sort of embellishment to put on a hat or a coffee cozy that you make, or even just to like work up like a cute little snowflake in some leftover white yarn that you have and put it on the top of a present that you give during the holiday season. So lots of great uses for this yarn, and I really encourage you not to just toss your yarn. I mean, beautiful hand-dyed yarn, we know, can be an investment, and you don't want to throw any of it away. Now, if you have a hank of yarn like this, and you don't have a yarn ball winder, you can wind an entire hank of yarn into a center pull ball like this. I do really want to encourage you though to be careful not to stretch out this really nice yarn as you wind it, so go slow and be careful. Also, just realize it's going to take a lot longer than doing it with some scrap yarn, and that's totally fine. It's a very inexpensive way to make your yarn super usable. If you are a person who loves to read directions are in the description below. If you would like more tips and tricks to improve and expand on your yarn craft, go ahead and subscribe, and then you'll get notifications whenever I post a new video. Thanks so much for joining me and learning how to make a center pull ball of yarn just using your hands and some scrap yarn. Happy crafting!